Okay, cool. Let's go. Second episode. Welcome, Mr. Gavin Heffernan.
How are we getting on?
I'm
I
good.
can't
I'm
wait to
good.
get
I'm
marked.
good. I'm good. I'm a bit nervous, but let's just get straight into it. So, Gavin, for those who may not know you, I just want you to take us back through your story, starting off in the very beginning, like the kind of Gravity Falls days.
Oh man, you've done your research. Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's the very beginning. When I was 10 or 11, I was mad about this show, Gravity Falls, and I made a YouTube channel about it to the detriment of my social life, especially going into secondary school. It wasn't ideal, but yeah, I used to make videos about the show and whatever, and I grew that to about 8,000 subscribers. And to me, at 10 or 11, that was the whole world. That was that was more people that lived in my town anyway. So that was enough for me to think I was balling. And I made my first bit of quid off that, and I bought a camera, and I kind of tried to. The show eventually ended, which was kind of the end of my career there.
Your
As
demise.
if I was ever going to keep making Gravity Falls videos for the rest of my life anyway. But yeah, the show ended, and I kind of tried to transition into videography and stuff like that, and that completely failed. No one was watching the videos, and what I thought was a failure at the time, ended up being a very valuable skill to me, and it's a skill I'm still using today. Like how to use a camera, in terms of photography, videography, whatever. It taught me how to be on the camera, and that was all the way back in 2016. That was long before what we have now, where everyone and their nanny is making TikTok vlogs and whatever. So kind of developed that skill, and then I transitioned into cutting hair. I started cutting hair when I was 15, and I did that for about no, I did that for 4.5 years in total. About 3 years into it, I wanted to sell some styling products to my customers, because I was using a few and a lot of them loved the way that I made their hair work. So I looked into, getting a few wholesale, and I looked into Irish ones, couldn't find any. So I decided I was going to make my own. That's all it started out as just an upsell to my clients, and then it kind of snowballed into what it is today, which is my full-time job selling hair products direct to the consumer. And yeah, basically all our marketing these days is just styling tutorials, any sort of advice about hair. That's the sort of content we're going for now, and that brings you up to today. Yeah.
Sick. And something that has held me back over the last few years that I kind of noticed, it was almost been a blessing, because I feel like if it didn't hold me back, I would have probably made a show of myself online. But especially in school, the fear of judgment, and kind of, it's almost like a battle going into school. And if someone's doing something out of the ordinary, they're kind of seen as an outlier, and it's tough to be yourself when you're in school. So how did you struggle with the fear of judgment at all, or did you, from an early age, did you kind of realize that no one's opinion really, really matters?
No, it doesn't matter who you are. Everyone's opinion's always going to get to you, especially if you're in secondary school or you're a teenager. That's all that matters in the world at the time. For me, I suppose I got kind of lucky, because I started the YouTube channel when I was in primary school, before that sort of wave of like giving a shit about what everyone thinks. When you're in primary school, all you're
Yeah.
doing is, I don't know, like kicking the shit out of bushes and riding your bike around the place or whatever. But, so I actually went into secondary school with the YouTube channel already, and I didn't actually, it wasn't a decision for me. I was just that guy from the get go. But what I will say is, I stopped doing that because, for a few reasons. And one was the judgment. I wanted to make friends and stuff, and to your point, yeah, like I did start making friends once I stopped it. So like it doesn't work. But when I wanted to start cutting hair, then that was something out of the ordinary as well, and I wasn't afraid anymore, because I knew what it felt like to be judged, and I knew that nothing really happened. So I think it's becomes a lot easier once you've taken the initial step and you've done one thing. So no, the fear of judgment, like it's prevalent no matter who you are, even for me today. But what I will say is, once you've done one thing and you've done it well enough, it doesn't really come back. Like the next thing you want to do, you don't care. Other people already see as this guy that does whatever he wants, and he doesn't give a fuck. So yeah, but my advice would be to just take that first one on the chin, and then you can live the
Yeah,
rest of your life,
100%. And
getting tougher
I think
ones.
when I my first kind of proper post out of the ordinary, I used to post a bit and they were funny, and you'd get the social proof when people would be liking it and laughing at it, and then that's fine. But when one didn't do so well, then you'd be like, oh, what's people thinking of me? Are they slagging me behind my back? And the first kind of out of the ordinary, when I first started my business, I was posting in March, and I remember I was physically shaking to press that post button. And then just after time, after a few reps, like I posted it for a few weeks, then I'd give up again because I couldn't take it. And then you'd go again, and you go again, and over time it just builds up. And now you almost get excited to post.
Yeah.
Each post is also an opportunity as well to kind of grow your business. And I think you are a very good example of that, because you on across all social medias, you have a YouTube channel now with over 20,000 followers or subscribers. You also have 40,000 on TikTok. So do you think organic, for marketing a business and yourself, do you think organic is the best route to go for starting out, or do you think kind of paid advertising is better?
Oh, that's a great question. 4 years ago, I would have had a very different answer. I got very lucky. Again, I started the TikTok long before every single business was on TikTok, which is what we
Yeah.
see today, and it was so prevalent. So I was posting videos and promoting the business at a time when no one else was, and it was very easy to go viral. You could take a video, you could pull up a video of you just standing in the corner, and it would bang 10,000 views. It was so easy back then. Nowadays, it's not so easy. If TikTok even sniffed that you were trying to promote something or whatever, of course their algorithm is going to push you in the different direction. They want you to spend money on the ads, so they don't like pushing stuff like that anymore. And not to mention that it's got so much more competitive. Everybody is making content now. But you can't survive without both. And that is difficult when starting out, because you don't have the backing, you don't have sales coming in, so to be putting money into paid ads is scary, but it is a necessary evil. And what I will say about the paid ads as well is there was something that changed my perspective on it a lot. I thought it was, I initially saw it as a tool that was just for getting sales. In the moment you put up an ad, how many sales do you get from it directly? How many people click on the ad and buy? But that's not all it is. You get people who will do that correct, and that's brilliant. You'll
Yeah.
also get people who go and follow the Instagram, or they will go to the website and they'll check it out, or they'll subscribe to your emails, whatever. It's bringing attention to the brand. It's going to grow it in the long term. But also, once you've got those eyes on the business, you do have to be pumping out organic stuff as sort of more of the bottom funnel stuff. Like, you'll see a lot of my content now, my organic content isn't really tailored to go viral anymore. All I'm doing is just trying to bring attention to questions that customers might have, and that's targeted as a very specific, or that's targeted at a very specific group of people. I'm not trying to reach the masses anymore. I'm trying to help a very specific person who is then going to hopefully go on then and purchase the products. So to answer your question, I think it's a mix of both. And in terms of the ad spend, just go with whatever you're comfortable with initially. You're going to have 2-3 months of it being tough, but once you get past that, you're going to start seeing sales coming in, if you do have a viable product, and it does help people.
100%. Why kind of hair? What made you kind of go into? Was there a reason to start out cutting hair, or did you kind of just one day decide this is kind of what I want to do and you just went with it?
That's a tough question. I had no idea. Yeah, it's probably just the latter. I know that's a boring answer.
Yeah.
I just used to see a lot of stuff on Instagram. I mean, maybe there was something to it that I've always kind of been interested in, like style and looking your best and whatever. And I always kind of did like my hair and having my hair look nice and whatever. So I used to watch a lot of content on YouTube and stuff, like how to fade and kind of the science of it all. I think it was just something I was naturally interested in.
Yeah.
And I do remember, like, one of my mates in school got absolutely butchered by a barber. And then I kind of started explaining to him, like, technically exactly what was wrong and why it made him look like a dope, the haircut. I remember it was taken up like way too high, and I was kind of just hitting them with just like general barber knowledge now that every barber would know, but just about
Yeah.
graduation and how that can slim your face shape and not create a nice square look and whatever. And then I asked him if I could have a go at fixing it. I was like, look, I think I could make this look better. If you gave me like 4 or 5 haircuts, your next 4 or 5 haircuts I'll do for you. And I did them for €2 haircut. That was my starting price. Or I think his were free, and then I upped it all the way to €2, a 200%
Yeah.
increase. So yeah, that's kind of how it started, and I got lucky there that my first client, like, there's nothing much I could have done worse than what he was already working with. So yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
it was kind of just a natural interest in kind of the science of it all. Like, it wasn't even initially to make a business out of it, or even make money from it. I was just interested, and then it kind of snowballed into what it became.
Yeah, and I think something as well that stands out to me there, like the in terms of business in general as well, a lot of people, including myself, when they start out, they struggle with consistency, and kind of, especially when you're starting out in a business now. I don't know if this relates to you as much, but when I started out and you don't see the results that you're expecting. So everyone who starts a business, they're real delusional, and they think they're gonna make €1 million, or I think one of my goals in my first 3 months was make 100K or something stupid like that. But um, I think a lot of people struggle with consistency, and they kind of look, once they see it not kind of going the way they think, they look elsewhere and for the next kind of big idea that's going to make them rich. So what do you think? Because you've been consistent the whole way through. It's always been about hair. So what do you like? Do you agree with kind of, in a way, where you just go with something, and you just, if you're gonna pick something, you go with it all the way?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, I think that if you go with something, you make it your whole life, and then you set out all these expectations, you're just bound to be disappointed. And like, for me, when I started Poseidon, I mean, I was 2 years at it, or 2.5 years, and I was still cutting hair as my day job. Like, that was paying my bills, that was funding whatever lifestyle I had, and Poseidon was just a hobby I had, but that's what allowed it to grow, because it stayed, and I put no expectations on the business. So, like, look, it's going to do what it's going to do, and I'll guardrail it. If it's still not doing well in 3 years, I'll pack it in and I'll try something else.
Yeah,
So if you're starting out a business, I wouldn't advise to put any sort of expectations on it, at least for the first 3 years. It's going to take a lot of time to build up trust in the market, and I think, yeah, I mean, I've definitely been there and setting unrealistic expectations, maybe later on in the business, getting a bit excited, seeing some sales coming in and being like, oh, well, I'm going to, 3x this year. But the reality is, a lot of the times, unless you have a unicorn product, it doesn't happen. And I mean, my opinion would be that you're far better off setting realistic goals that are also tied to action, that aren't, like, so. Example of what I mean there is, it's like, for me, my goals this year wouldn't be a certain amount of revenue. My goal would be, right, I'm going to consistently up ad spend by €5 a week, and I'm going to do that sustainably. I'm going to find a way where I can do that sustainably. So instead of my goals being something external that at the end of the day I can't control, like, I can't go into my customer's brain and make them buy it, or I can't
yeah,
log into their laptop and make them pay for the products. I can't control how much money comes into the business, but what I can control is figuring out a way to sustainably increase the amount of ad spend that's going up, and as long as I can do that, I'm happy. So yeah, sorry, I went off at a bit of a tangent there, but no, I wouldn't suggest putting any expectations on the business at first. I would first and foremost do it because you love it. And I mean, I'm not sure if everybody's like that. I've certainly always just really enjoyed the process of like creating a business and letting it sort of grow and come into its own. I've really enjoyed, like, watching that. I found it a pleasure to on Poseidon and to watch it grow. So I would always remember that at the end of the day, you are serving the business, not the other way around. The business is not serving this lifestyle that you have in your head that doesn't exist. It's the other way around. So to just enjoy that, and to keep yourself grounded with whatever you're doing that's bringing income in for yourself, and to use that to motivate you as well. You know, if I stick with this long enough, for me it was cutting hair. I was like, I won't have to do this ever again. Daddy.
Okay. So on your website you wrote that great hair is a reflection of confidence and self-expression. Do you think confidence is kind of a key factor to success in whatever you're doing, business and in kind of life in general?
Yeah, 100%, because I think that confidence presents opportunities. You might be more confident to do something that you wouldn't have otherwise. Like, you'll go talk to that girl and she could be your future wife, or if you weren't confident enough, you mightn't have done that. Or you might go out and ask for a job that you wouldn't have otherwise, or whatever. I 100% think that confidence is kind of injects. Sorry, can you hear all them in the background?
No, it's all good. Fuck it.
Are they all real loud? Like, they're literally the whole building is empty except for the one opposite me. They're all on.
No, it's cool. It doesn't matter. It's only as long as you can hear you, it's fine.
Okay, deadly, yeah. But yeah, I do definitely think that confidence is a huge injector, and that's been my favourite part of running the business, to just being able to like inject a little bit of confidence into young men and their good hair. I know I'm not solving the whole problem, but maybe just even my little corner of helping lads feel a bit more confident throughout the day is definitely one of my favourite parts of running the business. But yeah, I definitely think that the confidence plays a huge part in your success.
Sick. Okay. Probably should have prepared, but I left it a bit late, man. I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning and I was just rushing to find questions and all.
Oh, stop, really? Fucking hell.
Okay, so you recently hit 10k orders on Shopify. Congratulations, first of all. But what do you think has been the biggest factor, the driving factor of your success over the last 4 or 5 years?
I think the products are good, to be honest. I wouldn't necessarily attribute all of it to myself. I think people love the products and they come back and they work. I think that's first and foremost for any business. Like, a lot of people want to focus on their marketing or their sales or something else. Like, whatever you're selling has to work, because you know the return in business is the backbone of everything. That's what's going to keep things sustainable in the long run. You can only do so much just pulling someone in and you know getting them to buy once. That can only go on for so long. It's a huge effort. So I think just the fact that I put a lot of research into the products initially. I didn't cheap out on them, and that's been my focus ever since.
Yeah, and I think in the beginning you kind of learned that. I seen in an interview you said when you started out, was it your mini company you started out on?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and you were selling the products and the packaging, or the water was brown or something. I don't know if that's correct.
It looked absolutely crap. I went for see-through bottles for the most disgusting looking product ever. So that's a bad idea.
Yeah, 100%, and I agree with that as well, because when I started out in the business, I think a lot of people starting out, they kind of view it as the return rather than the product, and I think I've learned that the hard way, that the product is the most important part of any business. Really, I ordered 500 of my first product, and as soon as they came, I knew straight away that it was just not up to my. I'd say I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and that's a blessing and a curse probably, but the product wasn't up to my standards, so therefore I didn't really push it as much. I was almost kind of embarrassed by it, and that kind of set me back a good few steps and didn't allow my business to grow at all in the beginning.
It's hard to sell something you don't believe in, you know? Like, if you're not 100% confident in whatever it is you're selling, it's not going to go well. And I think that's a good thing, being a perfectionist, absolutely, because at the end of the day, it's not, like, I suppose it is your product, but you are not the user. Your users are your customers, you know? And if you are being a perfectionist and you're making sure it's absolutely perfect, you're doing what's best for them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so if you were to start from scratch, with all the knowledge, and you could only start with all the knowledge you've gained over the last 4 years. Would there be anything different that you would do, or would you kind of take the same route that you've gone down?
Oh, do you mean like if I had to start today, like February 2025, or like
Yeah,
if I went
just
back?
just with all the knowledge that you've gained over the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, there's kind of two parts to the answer. Like, first of all, there's a lot I do differently because when you start a business, I'm sure you know all about this yourself now as well. There's a lot of there's a lot of healthy naivety. Like, there's a lot of things that I know now, and I'm sure you do as well, that if I'd known back then would have really put me off starting it. Like how difficult certain things are, um, dealing with VAT, dealing with trademarks, and all of that crap, and the bank and everything.
Yeah,
A lot of like the technical stuff that doesn't actually necessarily push the business forward, that costs a lot of your time, a lot of your money, is an absolute nightmare. So I definitely think there's a lot of healthy naivety, that you have at the beginning, and in terms of what I would have done differently, yeah, there is definitely like one big thing, one big sort of like mindset attitude I would have had that I have now that I wish I'd had when the business had a load of momentum, and that was kind of about the paid ads and growth. So first of all, like when I started making a little bit of money with the business, what I would do is I would put in the revenue, I would take away all my costs, and whatever was left, whatever was the profit, I'd be like, that's what I made as the business owner. And that made sense to me. That makes sense for a lot of service-based businesses, whatever. And a mentor I have was asking me, he was like, okay, yeah, so what did you do in revenue this month? I was like, oh, 5 grand. He was like, what were your costs? I was like, 3.5. And he was like, oh, how much did you give yourself? I was like, well, I gave myself 1,500 because, that was the profit. And he was like, all right, cool, yeah, and what do you want to do next month? Do you want to do 5 grand again? I was like, no, I want to do, I think you can do 7.5 or 10 even maybe. And he's like, all right, grand. So like, where is the money going to come from that's going to, generate those sales, those extra sales, if you're taking everything out of the company? And I was like, fuck, I never thought of it like that. So my outlook at the moment is giving myself only what I need. What I do is I just have a credit card and I try to spend as little as I possibly can in a month, and that goes terribly a lot of the time. I'm absolutely fucking awful with money. Yeah, I only give myself enough to pay off that credit card. I barely save. Whatever I save is left in the company, and with that money, I will either buy more stock or up the ad spend to grow the business.
yeah,
And I wish that's what I had been doing when the business had momentum. And what I was actually doing was just buying enough to facilitate demand. I was like, right, I have this demand, I have this extra demand. I'm going to buy more to facilitate that. So I mean, to be honest, because I was just being greedy. I was young. I was enjoying my lifestyle, and I took way too much money from the company. And then eventually that momentum it died off, and now I'm in the position where, like, I mean, the organic sales are still solid. They could be a lot worse, but if I had been running paid ads along with the momentum I had in 2023, 2024, I would have been flying. Do you know?
yeah,
So
100%.
it's just going to take a bit longer to build that back up. But that's definitely something I would have done differently now. Looking back, I would have seen the business a lot more as something to grow, as opposed to something that's served me and my life.
Yeah, and over the years, has your definition of success kind of changed?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Like my my sort of. Give me a sec to think about that. Yeah, like I suppose when
Or kind of how
I
would you
was
define
starting out the
success
business, my
nowadays
definition of
compared to
success
starting out? Because when I
would have
started out, it
been,
was all about money. That's all I was really
yeah.
thinking of. But like now, would you kind of define success as like just the freedom to do whatever, or
No, I mean, like that kind of would have been the definition initially, was about my own freedom, my own money that I had to do whatever was happening that week or whatever. And now my definition of success is far more long term. I've kind of put a lifestyle together that I would like, in terms of where I want to live, how much a house costs in that area, and and factoring in Katie and stuff as well, how many children we want to have, how much that's all going to cost, how many cars we want to have, how many holidays we want to go on, and kind of put an idea together of how much that lifestyle costs. And that gets scary when you start working backwards and you go, okay, right, if that lifestyle costs, say, we'll put that at 50 grand a year, probably not, but say that costs 50 grand a year. How much money do I have to take out of the company a year to pocket 50 grand? Okay, it's probably closer to 90 once you factor in taxes. You're like, right, 90 grand a year needs to come out of the company. How much revenue do I need to do to generate that? Okay, right, if I'm taking 10% of whatever the company generates in a year, right, I have to get the company to be at 900 grand a year. And then the scariest one is when you're like, right, well, how much do I need to spend in order to have a business that generates 900 grand a year? How much stock do I need to prepay to generate those sales? How much money do I need to spend on ads? And that's the scary number, because in order to have this one day, you have to sacrifice now and not spend as much, be a bit more disciplined, and actually set yourself up for success in the long term. So my definition of success has changed a lot from being very short term, how much money can I make today and spend tomorrow, to how much money can I save today and actually have a suitable lifestyle when I'm older.
Yeah. Do you invest at all?
Yeah, I do. Invest like 50 quid a week, nothing major. I don't like taking too much out of the company, but I also don't like being all in either. Like as much as I do believe in Poseidon and everything, I do kind of have to cover my own arse a bit and just in case anything could really happen. So I just put in like 50 quid a week. Nothing major. It wouldn't be like a source of income for me. More of a savings. I don't save any money. That's all I do. I don't see the point in putting money in a savings account when you can just put it in an ETF.
Yeah. And you invest in stocks or crypto?
Well, I don't do any crypto at all. My brother's wife, she's mad into it. I don't have the time to research it or anything. Same with stock picking. I only do the S&P 500. I don't see the point in even hiring someone to stock pick. Like the S&P is always going to outperform. It automatically replaces. I never have to look at it. So I literally just put 50 quid in the S&P 500 every week. It's boring, but it works.
Has there been any moments throughout the last 5 years when you've been really, really struggling, or kind of, because from an outsider's point of view, it looks like a steady growth? I know you said in one of your interviews that you kind of, even at the start, you were selling out all the time. You were underbuying the stock, and then you constantly sell out and then have to kind of chasing your tail. So has there been any point though where you've kind of been having those doubts and you almost nearly quit?
Yeah, absolutely. The business has almost failed about 4 times. Like, it's come this close a few times. The first was kind of around when I dropped out of college in April 2023, and that was it was what you were talking about there, where I just had like 6 or 7 months of just like constantly selling out, and good problem to have, but it just kept happening over and over again, where I had to put on pre-order, and the messages I was getting from customers, rightfully so, were so fucking angry. I'd taken their money, and like it did say on the website pre-order, in fairness, but a lot of them missed it. A lot of them just ignored it, whatever. And I'd have to constantly be sending out refunds, or I'd have to explain. A lot of them were really angry. But no, like, I mean, that was a time where I was like, is this really what I want to do? Is this what I want to be waking up to every day? Just people angry with me and pissed off, and again, rightfully so, they were. But luckily I was able to get a grip on that and start actually, ordering enough stock. That was the first time. There's another time where in the summer of that year, I used to just have everything in one bank account. I didn't have a company bank account. I didn't have a salary. I would just spend money and like hope that it was less than the profit of the business. And then I think it was like June or July, I went out to Marbella with one of my mates, and I just started being an absolute fucking gobshite and spending too much money. And I checked my bank account, and it was literally like 0. And it was the end of the month, I think it was the end of June, and I had to make my fulfillment payment, like, for sending out all the orders for the pick and pack and shipping. And I was so nervous, and I don't think it was at zero, but it was at like 3 grand, and the payment was like 6 or 7. I was like, bollocks, how am I going to do this? So, like, I was so nervous, and I called up the owner of the fulfillment center, and I was like, oh, listen, just like, there's something wrong with my bank, and I acted really angry on the phone. I was like, they won't fucking let me send the money. I've just sent you 3 grand anyway, whatever, and that was all the money I had, and that was a terrible rest of the holiday because all I did was just sit in the in the room. I couldn't even do anything, and yeah, and he was just like, oh yeah, no, fair enough. Happened to me before as well. Don't worry, just send it whenever you got it. And then I think 2 or 3 weeks later, I got him the rest, and I was in the clear. And then last year, geez, I went into a mad amount of debt to buy a bunch of stock. I just went so bullish, and it was definitely a bad idea. It took me about 3 or 4 months to get that fully paid off, and not paying myself out of the company as well.
Yeah.
But luckily, that's all sorted now. But there definitely has been tough times, and when it's your own business as well, it really seeps into your personal life. Like, I'd be sitting there on dates with Katie, and I wouldn't be able to enjoy it. I'd just be there thinking about work.
Yeah. It's just brewing up in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what am I going to do tomorrow? How am I going to sort this? And it's a terrible thing because you don't really enjoy life when something like that's going on. But it's really hard to anyway. It's really hard to sleep. I was only sleeping about 5 hours a night, and that would be from like 5 or 6 a.m. until 11 a.m. It's not even like I was getting up early and chasing the day. It was just like couldn't sleep at all. And then when I'd finally sleep, I'd end up missing half the day. But luckily, I was able to get out of that. It's important to have support. Like, if you've got missus or family or whatever to chat to people, and the thing about like entrepreneurship as well, especially if you're young, it can be quite lonely. That's not really something I was able to talk to my mates about. I could tell them I was struggling and that helped, but like I couldn't really get practical advice from my mates because they're all in college. They're not running their own businesses.
They don't experience it. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. But luckily, I have a couple of friends as well that are running their own businesses, and I was able to go to them with advice. But when these things happen, they're always the worst thing in the world. And I mean, it is just kind of like whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like something else comes up, and you've dealt with other shit before that didn't end you, didn't knock you to the floor. It didn't wipe out the business. So you're just, I don't know. For me, these things have stopped upsetting me and just made me angry instead. I'm just like, bollocks, now I've got to deal with this. Because it's not really a case now anymore where I think it's going to jeopardize the company or anything. But I'm sure I'm sure now that I've said that, something even worse is going to come around the corner and absolutely wipe me off. But
okay, so over the last couple of years, because networking is a huge part of any business, and that's something that I didn't really realize in the beginning. I was always trying to be solo, almost from a greed point of view, because I kind of would, as I said, I would look at the income rather than the product. So I'd look at how much money I would be making. So I didn't want to add anyone else in who would take some of that money. But how important has networking been in your growth of your business, or have you actively networked throughout the last couple of years?
I don't think having a big network is important at all, to be honest. I think if you're going to bring someone into the business, whether it's an agency or a business partner or something, you want to do that very fucking slowly, because it can be the detriment to your business. Like, I've worked with agencies in the past, and through no fault of their own, it's been a really bad thing for the business. And that was just me kind of maybe getting a bit greedy with responsibility. I'm not doing what I should have been doing, and not learning as much, and not wearing every hat in the business, because the real utility to having an agency is when you don't have time to do the thing anymore, not when they can do it better for you. I think, like, at the beginning, you're better off just being solo, learning how to do everything you can, and when something like email marketing or running Facebook ads or whatever is actually just a hassle for you, and it would make more sense in the eyes of the company to hire someone to do that, so it could free up more of your time. Let's say like it takes you, I don't know, 5 hours a week in terms of strategy for like running Facebook ads, and someone will charge 750 quid a month to run the ads for you. If that 5 hours a week is worth more to you than that 750 quid a month, then that's when it makes sense to bring someone in. Not any time before, in my opinion anyway, I don't think. I think you're always better off learning the skills, keeping it cheap for yourself, especially when it comes to marketing. And then the same goes for a business partner. And there's always stuff you can work out with someone, commission based, whatever, with whatever they're bringing in. You'd want to be very careful about giving someone equity in the company, because like in the long term, that can just absolutely fuck you. They can just keep reaping and doing no work at all. So yeah, my advice would be to bring people very slow into the company. And then in terms of just having like a general network, it's always good to know people and put names to faces and stuff. Past the surface level though, I think you only need 2 or 3 lads that you really keep up to date on with the company and details and stuff. Other than that, you're kind of getting into territory of just too much, I think.
Yeah. Have you had any bad experiences hiring people or bringing people into the business?
Yeah, I did once. Yeah, I got absolutely fleeced by Cowboy. I'm hesitant to name or shame. Do you know? I'm gonna leave. I'm not gonna say.
Yeah, maybe don't name them, but you can tell me about the story though.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you after in case you ever get contacted or anything. But there's a company, and your man reached out to me and he was like, have you thought about retailers, getting your products into retailers? I was like, no, that sounds pretty interesting. So I went and met him, and he seemed like a cool guy. Then he proposed, and it was like 500 quid a month flat fee, and he was going to basically reach out to retailers and to try get the products in, whatever. And he explained how this is his family business. His dad did this before him, and he's taken it over and stuff now. He was like, this is what I've been doing my whole life. And he had an office and everything. It all seemed fairly legit. So like, yeah, go on. And then I asked him, I was like, 500 quid a month flat, like surely you would want just a kickback, like from whatever sales you get. It's because that was a red flag to me. It's like, why is he asking for a flat fee if he's generating sales? Surely a commission would be more suitable pricing model for this. Yeah. And then he explained it in some kind of way where he was like, yeah, but look, we have staff costs we need to cover. And then that way, like if you get a really big deal, which happens a lot, you're not getting a huge payout towards us. And I was like, okay, fair enough, go on, we'll go for it. And yeah, 4 months I was paying him, and like it was all just smoke and mirrors, like literally just we're on to this guy, this, that and the other. And then I remember it all came to a point. I had an invoice due. I said to him, I was like, if you can't get any revenue in the door, by the way, 4 months, zero revenue for the business. He didn't bring in a fucking single cent. Zero. He didn't bring in
not a penny.
And then there was always this, this barber's interested, or this pharmacy's getting on, they want a sample, whatever. I was all sending samples out to him to send out. And then it all came to a point, I was like, listen, man, if you don't get anything in the next month, you're gone. And so that month passed, absolutely nothing, of course. And then I get a call from him, and he's like, this is bear in mind, the week of Black Friday. And he goes, it looks like you're getting into boots. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, I've got you a deal with every single Boots in the country. And I was like, send me the email. And he was like, no, they rang me. I was like, Boots rang you on the week of Black Friday saying they want my products in every single one of their shops. He was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, grand. Well, we'll chat about it on Monday. And he was like, yeah, okay, grand. And then literally not even 2 minutes after the call, what do I get? I get my invoice from him for the month. And I was like, this guy can't be serious. And I said, I'm not paying this. I said, if you want to do this, I did say to him, was like, if you want to go forward, we can go forward, but I'm not paying you a single cent until you've made back what I've paid you, and then we can start doing the payments again. And he just aired that, nothing. But yeah, that was my experience with the Cowboy. But look, the way I see
and he didn't get you into Boots in the end.
No, he didn't get me into Boots. No. It was
Jesus.
so promising.
Have you made it into any retail stores yet? Or you're still working on that?
Still working on it. Got yeah, it's not something I'm kind of focused on at the moment either. Like it's like with the amount of stock I'm holding, I'd be much better off selling that direct to consumer. It'd be much easier, and especially with the brand presence, like it's still a relatively small brand. It's not a household name or anything yet. So until then, I'm just going to wait until brand or retailers start sort of approaching me. But we are in a few barbers. I do sell directly to a few independent barbers and a few shops as well, and then they sell it inside there. And that's something I'm kind of interested in exploring more, like sort of sponsoring barbers to create content around the products. And I can send them out some free ones every month, something like that.
Okay, so looking long term, you said you kind of your vision is more long term now. So where do you kind of see Poseidon in the next 5 years?
Oh, to be honest, that kind of comes back to the expectations. I I don't really like. I mean, I see kind of my vision and my goals from my own life and in the long term. But with Poseidon, I try not to kind of look past the next calendar year, because yeah, you just never know. And I know a lot of people would disagree with that. They're probably right, but I don't know what I've seen in the last few years is how moldable things are. And I'm always willing to accept change, to roll with it.
Yeah.
So I don't really like to kind of create big long term plans because I think that might have the potential to get in the way of good change. But for the next 12 months anyway, I'm really just keeping it so simple. I want to keep growing the ad spend consistently, keep growing the Instagram and the socials, get more eyes on the company, keep investing more into more stock, and releasing maybe a few new products, something like that.
Yeah, I've
And
seen you have an is it an aftershave? It's sold out on the
yeah,
website, but
yeah,
do
it's
you,
just literally just sold out there. It took about a year to sell them out, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm going to be ordering soon. I'm going to
did
be
you
ordering
create that
some.
yourself, or did what happened there?
Yeah, no, that was from my manufacturers. It's inspired by what was it? Which one is it? Ombre Nomad by Louis Vuitton. It's a deadly one, so I should have that back soon. But yeah, that's. I mean, maybe two or three new products max in the next year. Because my main goal is to just get more eyes on the company as a whole.
Yeah. And do you think eventually you'll move from hair care to more kind of that kind of aftershaves and other kind of products that you could use?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be opposed to kind of having sort of an all round sort of men's care brand, which would have different sort of body washes and things like that as well. If that's the direction things go, if that's what people want. At the end of the day, I'm really just focused on the customer and what the customer wants. And if all the customer wants is hair stuff, no problem. That's grand. We'll just keep churning that out.
All right, so over your time, I think personal branding has been a big topic of conversation over the last couple of years. How important do you think a personal brand is in growing your business? Because you are the face of it. And from the very beginning, I remember I looked at your first Instagram post for Poseidon. It is just you. It's always been you.
Yeah.
So do you think personal branding is a big driver for business?
I think it's one of those things as well. There's definitely a phrase for this, but it's one of those things that like everyone who has a personal brand says how important it is to have a personal brand. But there are so many people who are majorly successful without a personal brand. Like if you look at any of those like Coco Melon YouTube channels or anything, they're bringing in
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands in ad revenue a week, and they've no personal brand whatsoever. But what it has done, I mean, there's a few positives and a few negatives. The main positive is just trust. When you're starting out a company and it's brand new to the market, if you are putting yourself out there and you're like, hey, this is me, I'm Gav, I own this, right? This is me, this is how I'm doing it. You're gonna develop trust with the customer a lot quicker. Especially in your own market. Like if someone, if I'm trying to sell to people in Dublin and I'm like, I'm born and bred here in Dublin. and I was in UCD and I dropped out, and this is what I'm trying to do full time now. You're a lot more relatable than you would be otherwise. So it can be a great tool to build trust quicker with the customer. And I guess the negative to it is then you're tied to the brand. You are the company. So if you ever want to exit, that's going to be tricky. You're probably going to have to work out some sort of deal where you stay in the business for 2 years. And if your name is tied to it, forget about it. Like if you were starting this and it was Mark Kern's podcast, like who's ever gonna buy that or anything. So in terms of personal brand, yeah, it can definitely help, but I wouldn't go too far with it. Like, unless you've got like a landscaping business or something that's unsellable, no one's gonna. I mean, maybe someone could buy your clientele or something, but originally I was gonna call Poseidon Hefoco. And I was advised against that. It's like, if you ever want to exit, you're fucked. So the personal brand can be good, but you can definitely take it a step too far.
Yeah, and is that something that you kind of will be focused on in the future?
What, the personal branding?
Yeah.
I don't see why not, but once again, like if I were to do it, it would be something I would do for the crack, like for the hobby, just to put stuff out there. I wouldn't put any expectations on it to kind of, I don't know, a lot of people start their personal brand. They're like, how can I monetize this? How can I, if I start posting videos about ecom, for me, for example, like when can I sell a course? Like I just do it for the crack. I wouldn't put any expectations on it, but yeah, no, like I've definitely thought about it. I just got one of those Osmo things, so that would definitely make it a lot
so did
easier.
I. Did you get the new one? The Pocket 3?
The Pocket 3.
I couldn't afford that, but I got the Pocket 1.
Nice.
I'm gonna get a little YouTube vlog going. You actually have a lot of subscribers on your YouTube, so you kind of do have a personal brand.
Yeah,
not really on Instagram, but you have 23K on YouTube.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Are you gonna continue kind of posting?
Tell you what, I should be doing a lot more than I am. The YouTube is just there's such a barrier. My goal was to do one a week, and I was doing good at that, but. Yeah, I really should be doing more. And thank you for reminding me, because that is something I should be really doing more of.
I think that's something as well when you start a business, you don't really realise the whole, how much actually goes into it. And then if there's a personal brand on top of it, there's also so much more. So there's editing, creating content, selling, marketing, email marketing. There's all these different avenues. And when I started out, it was just TikTok, a website, and I expected to get sales. And to be fair, I actually did get a few sales. But
it's exciting if you embrace it.
There's a lot of work that goes into it.
Definitely, yeah. But you can make it exciting if you embrace them one by one, do you know?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I'm gonna say we call it a day here.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good way, not a good saying to end it on. But
no.
Thank you for coming on. Do you want to kind of plug yourself before we go? Yeah, where can people find you?
Thank you so much for having me. You absolutely smashed it. It was an absolute pleasure. I'd love to be on again soon. Maybe
a golf episode soon.
And yeah, if you want to check out any of the hairstyling products we sell, you can go to PoseidonHair.com. Our Instagram is myPoseidonHair, and our TikTok's just Poseidon Hair, POSEIDON. It's a tough one if you're in any way dyslexic. But yeah, Mark, thanks again for having me on. I had a brilliant time.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
All right.
Watch.